everyone. I wanted to talk to you about the Poetics of George Lucas because I couldn't find much online. So let me start with this one topic, the wind in his movies, and how it's actually much more than just air flowing. In the films of George Lucas, wind is never just weather. It's a narrative force, a whisper, a voice call, a kind of silent music that arrives before the story does. You feel it in Star Wars, the moment Luke Skywalker steps outside and stares at the twin suns of Tatooine. Nothing moves except the wind. It stirs his hair, lifts his robe. There's no dialogue, no action, but the moment breathes. The music swells. And even without words, something in the air says, he's already gone. The journey has started. This is how myth begins in Lucas's cinema. Not with a prophecy, not with a flash of light, but with a shift in atmosphere. The wind speaks first. The story follows. Across the saga, Lucas returns to this element again and again. In Return of the Jedi, as Luke walks alone through the trees of Endor, the wind rises again. His cloak moves. The forest exhales. He's about to surrender himself, not in defeat, but in belief. The wind arrives like it did before, just before transformation, a cue without words. The pattern holds. Revenge of the Sith, Anakin in the Jedi Temple, walking past tall windows as the drapes lift in the breeze. He's about to fall, but he doesn't speak. The wind carries the weight before the choice is made. What's remarkable is how consistent this is across time, across planets, across trilogies. The wind isn't decorative. It's not symbolic in the usual sense. It doesn't interrupt the world. It pulls it forward. It's what connects the ordinary with the extraordinary. This is different from how Spielberg uses wind. In E.T., for example, the wind signals rupture, a flash, a supernatural arrival. Trees shiver, lights flicker. The wind says, something alien has entered. A break in the fabric. And Lucas's wind is quieter. It doesn't break the world, it threads it. A current between states of being, between the boy and the hero, between the visible and the mythic. In his films, the wind doesn't arrive to shock, it arrives to invite. You see it not just in nature, but in design. The architecture of Lucas's worlds makes space for air to move. Naboo's arches, the Jedi Temple's colonnades, the open balconies, these are not closed sets. They are built to breathe, built to listen, built to feel that moment when the light changes and the wind turns inward. Even in THX 1138, where natural elements are stripped away, there are still pressure, still atmosphere, the hum of control systems, the hiss of vents, the suggestion that something is always moving, even if it can't be seen. Wind without nature, a whisper without a voice. In all these moments, wind functions as more than just motion. It's timing, it's orientation. It tells the body something before the brain catches up. The moment doesn't begin with a line. It begins with the air shifting. It's fascinating how Lucas uses it to carry myth without declaring myth. The force isn't shown as a storm. It's felt as a pressure, as a current. And in that sense, the wind becomes part of the force's language. It's not the force itself, but it's what the force might feel like when it moves through the world. You can sense it on Mustafar when Anakin and Obi-Wan face each other, not just in the violence of lava, but in the strange pre-battle stillness. The moment before the fight is thick, hot air, choking air, and just a trace of motion before everything burns. You sense it again in The Force Awakens, a film Lucas didn't direct, but whose visual code still follows his lead. Rey alone on Jakku, the wind stirring the sand. It's not just survival, it's preparation. Something mythic is already in motion. The reason this works isn't because the wind is symbolic, it's because it's felt, it's physical. It moves capes, hair, flags, grasses. It gives the scene breath, rhythm, direction without command. That's why it doesn't feel artificial. It's never added as flair. It arrives only when the scene needs to transition, not from one place to another, but from one emotional state to another. Before myth takes form, it breathes. The wind says, "Pay attention. Something is shifting." It's the voice of destiny, not shouted, but whispered. A barely audible score, a call only the soul can hear. And in that way, Lucas builds a continuity more powerful than lore. The same wind on Tatooine moved through Endor, through the Jedi Temple, through the volcanic haze of Mustafar. It's not the setting that matters. It's the current, that shared breath between worlds.